I'm reading from the Handel's Messiah Family Advent Reader by Donna Payne and Fran Lenzo. And the chapter I'm reading is for the fourth week in Advent, or day 2, or Monday. It's called the Perfume of the Pharoahs. He was cut off out of the land of the living. For the transgressions of thy people he was stricken. Based on Isaiah chapter 53, verse 8. It is as ancient as Egyptian pharaohs and as modern as toothpaste. It was used to bury the dead and to perfume a young maiden. It tastes bitter, but smells sweet. It is myrrh. It was once the most costly, the most desirable, and the most popular of all ancient spices. Its only rival was frankincense. It could heal, soothe, beautify, honor, and preserve its users. All this from the oily, brownish strips of a scrubby, scrawny, thorny tree. Those who collect the once precious myrrh don't even need to work hard to get it. The bark of the tree splits and cracks on its own. It oozes a gummy sap, just like a Christmas tree sometimes does. Often the harvesters added their own cuts into the thick bark to release more of the myrrh stored hidden in the hidden channels beneath the surface. With time, the gum dries in teardrops of yellowish to reddish-brown color. These are scraped off the tree, and they can be powdered or partly dissolved in oil or alcohol for use in medicines, perfumes, rubbing oils, and incense. All sorts of myrrh products are still available today, including inexpensive myrrh mouthwashes, chewing gums, toothpaste, and perfume. You can find capsules and extracts and essential oils of myrrh. Today, it is the stuff of uncertain home remedies. For many centuries, it was the treasure of kings, so desirable that a pound of it could cost several $1,000s. The myrrh trees grew in the same few desert places of Arabia and Africa that supplied the ancient world with frankincense. When Joseph of the many-colored coat was sold into slavery by his brother, it was to a caravan of myrrh traders. The queen of Saba, or Sheba, from the southwest Arabia, may have come to visit the great King Solomon of Israel, partly to promote the trade of myrrh and frankincense. When the young Jewish girl Esther was preparing to be queen of Persia, she used myrrh for 6 months as a beauty treatment. Myrrh means bitter in many languages, but its sweet, powerful odor covers the bitter smells that nothing else can hide. It was a choice body oil, deodorant, and mouthwash for Egyptians, Romans, and Greeks. An old book of medicine in the 1st century AD recommends that myrrh be chewed for the stinking of the breath, or spread on for the grief of the armpits. Doctors prescribed myrrh to heal many diseases. They used it to cover the smell of rotting wounds. People suffering from pain chewed or swallowed myrrh, and it probably helped. Modern science has confirmed that myrrh can work as a painkiller. If myrrh failed as a treatment for a disease and the patient died, it still was important for the funeral and burial. The perfume of myrrh hid the odor of death. Kings and pharaohs could afford to have their bodies buried with huge amounts of myrrh and other spices. At his death, King Asa of Israel was laid on a bed of spices in his tomb in the city of David. Egyptians prepared their mummies by putting myrrh and other spices inside the body before wrapping it. It was natural that the wise men who traveled so far to honor the infant Jesus should give him gifts fit for a king: gold, frankincense, and myrrh, the treasures of their day. But the same sweet perfume that honored Jesus at his birth would mark his death many years later. No one likes to think about death, when a baby is born. But death was the reason for Jesus' birth. Isaiah tells us that he was born to die for the sins of his people. We are his people. For our sakes, he was crucified, taken from the land of the living. After he died, his friends took his body from the cross. One offered a tomb as a gift. Another brought 75 pounds of myrrh and other spices. Together they wrapped Christ's body in strips of linen, covered it with spices, and laid it in the cave tomb. The entrance was then sealed with a stone. It was over, they thought. The Queen of Sheba and Queen Esther, King Solomon and King Asa still lie in their tombs awaiting the day of judgment. Their bodies may be perfumed, but all the myrrh in the world cannot hide the fact that they are dead, nor can it bring them back to life. But the stone is gone from the doorway of Jesus' tomb. He is not there. It was impossible for death to keep its hold on him. Acts chapter 2, verse 24. He has conquered death for us all. By his wounds we are healed. Isaiah chapter 53, verse 5. And because Jesus lives, we know that we shall live also, if he is our Savior.